Michael, thank you for being here.
Great to be here. Nice to not have like 3 intense weeks and be able to actually speak about stuff.
I think that's what conferences are these days. So getting started, you all recently launched your TGE and a DAT on the first day for zero G. Could you tell us a little bit about zero G? I understand it's a layer one that is custom built for AI. Could you tell us why you decided to do an AI native layer one?
Yeah, so the key issue with centralized AI or what we call black box AI is that you can't really verify what's underneath the hood. You don't know where the data came from. You don't know what the censorship decisions are. You don't know what version of the model you're getting. You don't know the weights and biases of the model. All of that's completely opaque. You have to trust an entity to do all of that for you. And so we were quite worried that in 10 years, that when AI starts running more major societal level systems, let's say transportation and logistics and factories and governance systems, administrative systems, that we will need verification. We will need to trust our AIs by being able to verify and put AI into an environment where it can't cheat. And by having centralized or black box AI, it won't accomplish that goal. And so we wanted to create the exact opposite. We wanted to create AI that's community owned, AI that's transparent, AI that's verifiable, and then ultimately fully safe and aligned with human interest.
That's amazing. I guess when you set up to build zero G, what design choices or how does the architecture differ from like an Ethereum or a Solana or a Sui?
So AI is an extreme use case. And so to give an example, when we first started, Ethereum had about 80 kilobytes per second of data throughput. Now, modern AI data centers do hundreds of gigabytes, even terabytes per second of throughput. So if you want to do things like actually on-chain training at some point in time, you can't do it with Ethereum or any of these other blockchains, basically. And so we architected a data availability layer that can actually infinitely scale and get through those type of data throughput rates. So that was like one of the major aspects. And then the same thing on the transaction side, where we have infinite scale, and then same thing on the storage side and compute side. So all of these layers have to be designed for extreme use cases. And that was AI effectively.
Very cool. So infinite scalability sounds really interesting because even with Bitcoin trying to store JPEGs is extremely inefficient. There's a big debate about that right now. Storing anything on a blockchain for the past decade really has been very, very inefficient. How have you addressed that? And how does that kind of relate to the trilemma that we have with blockchain? What trade-offs do you have to make?
Yeah, basically, there's the way we designed the system. It's a very modular based system. So you've got different networks effectively interacting with the layer one. So you've got a separate storage network, which is designed for AI upload and download speeds. So multiple gigabytes per second, so that you can actually use it in processes like AI training or kind of loading a model into a GPU very, very rapidly. And so that was kind of the key idea, was this modularity. So not everything needs to be just stored purely on the layer one, but we basically split it apart so that you've got different networks designed for specific purposes.
That's great. Thank you. I mentioned it earlier, but you had a pretty cool launch. Was it last week?
Yeah, it feels like forever ago, but yes, last week.
So I know that you did a digital asset treasury right around the same time as your TGE, which is a pretty bold choice. I love that. Could you kind of explain what led to that choice for your launch?
Yeah, I think we're one of the first companies to actually launch a DAT before a live token. And it was a very challenging process because being first at anything, there's a lot of legal hurdles, a lot of tax hurdles, a lot of alignment hurdles, like community hurdles and so on. So it was a pretty challenging process from that perspective, even just getting investors aligned. So because of the way the contributions were done into the DAT, it gave our investors on our cap table for zero G, like we have 300 investors, a chance to also participate in the DAT. And so basically trying to wrangle 300 investors to give us their decisions in time for participating in kind, that alone is like a massive process.
It can be very difficult, that sort of thing. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
How do you see the interplay of your token, your crypto native token and the equity of your DAT? How do you kind of see those both coexisting, and how do you see that impacting future zero G?
It's a very synergistic vehicle. So now you have a DAT. Its sole purpose is to increase zero G per share. And so it's super synergistic. So it'll consistently buy zero G. and then it'll use its equity to generate cash in effect to then use that cash to buy 0G. And so it's kind of like this very circular symbiotic relationship between the two entities.
Yes, kind of like a flywheel.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to create a flywheel, and then you're part of one of the most liquid markets in the world, the NASDAQ. And so it's much easier gaining liquidity from there than other crypto markets on the token side.
What sort of utility, if any, what does the 0G token do? Is it just gas, or is there a way to stake it? What can people do with the 0G token if they go out and buy it today?
Yeah, there's the traditional, I think it's 3 buckets: security, governance, and utility. So security is basically staking, restaking, liquid staking, all of those aspects you can do with the 0G token. Then there's the governance aspects. If you want to participate in like veto rights on the 0G network, then you can participate with the 0G token. And in order to participate, you need to be a holder. Then there's the utility pieces, which is gas. It's paying for storage, for compute. It's paying for applications that are on the layer 1. Some of the applications will use 0G as the base trading pair, for example. So there'll be a lot of utility coming from that as well.
Great. With the DAT, do you see this as kind of a synergistic way to drive value in the token, and then the token drives value in the DAT? Is there any sort of design mechanism for that?
I mean, basically, you can think of it that the DAT gives you exposure to Wall Street institutional investors, and it's a way for them to get exposure into a token vehicle, which they otherwise are not permitted to do. And so it gives you an additional kind of distribution channel to other types of capital. And so the way I think about kind of token holders over time, it's either institutions, it's retail users, or you use your own revenue to do like buybacks of the token effectively.
Great. A little bit ago, before we were up here, you mentioned that you all just made a pretty big hire. Could you share a little bit of info about that?
Yeah, it's very exciting. We actually announced 2 big hires. One hire is the former CEO of the Avalanche Foundation, just joined us as our chief growth officer. And then we just announced a director on the foundation side, Jonathan Cheng, who is an ex-Google kind of representative that led APAC and was also the CEO of Fintopia in APAC. And he's joining effectively on the board of the foundation. So 2 pretty big hires.
Looking to the future, how do you see 0G growing and competing, with the big players in the AI ecosystem? How does this fit in with the Anthropics, with the OpenAIs? How do you see yourself growing your market share and having a seat at the table?
So we can't compete at the same game. Basically, the hyperscaler game is raise as much capital as possible, put as much compute into a single area as possible, and then train your own models. Because our vision of the future is that AI should be a public good. And so we want to compete in a different game. And that game is to use community-built models. We actually believe that we will get to AGI much faster if we have many, many, many expert models that have come together through a coordination layer like 0G, and then achieve AGI that way. Why do we believe that? Because the human brain is structured that way. If you look at the human nervous system, if you look at all the hemispheres of your brain, for example, you've got a motor cortex, super specialized. It actually has representations of your hands and feet in the motor cortex. But what's coordinating that with, let's say, the cerebellum, which gives you kind of time perception and so on, is you've got these like 10 layers of recs across your brain that are coordination layers. And so similarly, if we want computers to act like humans, why aren't we rebuilding how the nervous system works? And so we believe many small expert models strung together through a coordination layer will actually achieve that much faster. So we believe in community-driven models. If you, for example, have 10 of the best Solidity coders in the world come together and say, I'll give you my data, I'll give you my compute, we'll tokenize this model, and then every time the model is called, we'll give you, some reward for it, then I think we will have a much more community-driven effect that's akin to how Bitcoin, outcompeted many other players in the space.
I love that. Decentralization is, a very powerful changing force in the world. And AI has been, up to this point, highly centralized. Now, there's the open weight models from Meta, but I love what you're doing and the approach you're taking. How can people get involved today? Can they start building right away? Where are you at, and how can people start helping build this future?
Yeah, so we just launched mainnet, so it's early days. But if you're interested in building, come to docs.0g.ai or just to our website, 0g.ai. All the information is literally on there. Follow us on Discord, follow us on socials, on X, and so on. So yeah, it's all pretty well laid out. We've got multiple ecosystem programs. We got hackathons to Guild on 0G to accelerators, depending on kind of what stage you are, and can give as much resources as necessary.
Michael Heinrich, thank you so much.
A pleasure. Thanks.